The envelope arrived on a rainy Sunday evening. Not in the mail, not through a courier, not even with a warning. It appeared in my hands while 3 generations of my family crowded around my grandmother's dining room table. The house smelled like roasted chicken, fresh bread, and cinnamon. Every chair was occupied, every conversation overlapped with another. My uncle was complaining about gas prices. My younger cousin was showing everyone a video on his phone. My grandfather was pretending not to hear either of them. It was loud, comfortably loud, the kind of noise that only exists in families who have spent decades collecting stories together. I was reaching for a dinner roll when my grandmother suddenly touched my wrist. I turned toward her. She looked exactly as she always had. Silver hair, soft blue sweater, reading glasses hanging from a chain around her neck. But something in her expression felt different. Wrong. Before I could ask what was happening, she slid a thick envelope beneath the edge of the tablecloth and pressed it into my hand. "Don't open this here," she whispered. I blinked. "What is it?" Her fingers tightened. "Just listen." The seriousness in her voice instantly erased every other sound around me. "You need to leave your house tomorrow morning." I stared at her. "What? Take your husband, take your son, pack enough for a week?" For a moment I honestly wondered if she was joking. My grandmother never joked like that. But she also never looked afraid. And right then she looked terrified. Not confused, not worried, terrified. The realization sent a chill through my chest. "Grandma, tomorrow morning," she interrupted quietly. Then she released my hand, picked up her glass of tea, and joined a conversation about gardening as if nothing unusual had happened. I sat frozen. The envelope felt strangely heavy in my lap. Across the table my husband Daniel caught my eye. He immediately noticed something was wrong. I forced a smile. He didn't believe it. Nobody else seemed to notice. Dinner continued. Plates were passed around. Stories were shared. Dessert appeared. The evening carried on exactly as it always had. But my attention never left my grandmother. Several times I caught her glancing toward the front windows. Each time she did, the fear returned to her face for just a fraction of a second. Then it disappeared again. By the time dinner ended, I felt sick with anticipation. We said our goodbyes. My grandmother hugged me longer than usual. Much longer. When she finally stepped back, her eyes were wet. "I love you," she said. The words sounded different, heavier, like they carried the weight of something she wasn't saying. "I love you too," she smiled, but the smile never reached her eyes. The drive home felt endless. Daniel kept glancing at me. "Okay," he finally said. "What's going on?" I pulled the envelope from my purse. His eyebrows rose. "That's serious. You tell me." 20 minutes later we were sitting at our kitchen table. Our 8-year-old son, Ethan, was asleep upstairs. The house was quiet. I broke the seal. Inside were 3 things: a handwritten letter, a small brass key, and a flash drive. My stomach tightened. The letter alone was nearly 10 pages long. Every line was written in my grandmother's careful handwriting. I started reading, and within 2 paragraphs, my entire understanding of my family changed forever. The letter began with a confession. Not a crime, a secret, one she had carried for nearly 50 years. Before she became a teacher. Before she married my grandfather. Before anyone in our family knew her. She had worked undercover for a federal investigation. Not as an agent, not as a detective, as an informant. At 24 years old she had accidentally discovered evidence linking a shipping company to an organized criminal network operating across multiple states. Federal investigators approached her. She was given a choice. Walk away and pretend she had seen nothing. Or help expose people powerful enough to make witnesses disappear. She chose to help. For nearly a decade she secretly gathered information, recorded transactions, copied documents, attended meetings, reported everything. Nobody suspected her. According to the letter, that invisibility saved dozens of lives. Eventually the organization collapsed. Major arrests followed. The case became one of the largest criminal prosecutions in the region. Everyone involved believed the danger was over. For decades it was. Until recently. The next paragraph made my blood run cold. Someone had discovered her identity. Not through brilliant detective work. Not through luck. Through old records that were never supposed to become public. A series of document releases had exposed fragments of information. Enough for someone determined to put the pieces together. And someone had. According to the letter, that person was the son of one of the men whose empire had been destroyed. For years he had quietly searched for the source responsible. Now he believed he had finally found her. My grandmother. The final pages contained instructions. Call a specific federal investigator. Use the key. Retrieve documents from a safety deposit box. Leave town immediately. Trust nobody outside the family. When I finished reading, neither Daniel nor I spoke. The silence stretched across the kitchen. Finally he looked up. Is this real? I stared at the flash drive. I think it is. The next hour changed everything. The investigator answered on the first ring. She already knew my name. That terrified me more than anything else. She confirmed every detail. The investigation was active. Surveillance had already been detected near my grandmother's neighborhood. Protective measures were being arranged. We were instructed to stay home overnight. Agents would arrive at dawn. After that, events moved faster than I thought possible. Before sunrise, black SUVs arrived. Our family was relocated. Phones were replaced. Addresses changed. Schedules erased. For the first time in my life I understood what it felt like to disappear. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Meanwhile investigators uncovered something much larger than anyone expected. The people searching for my grandmother weren't simply seeking answers. They were funding illegal operations of their own. Financial crimes. Witness intimidation. Fraud. Conspiracy. Every new discovery expanded the case. Every new discovery strengthened it. Eventually arrests began, one after another. The network collapsed. Again, history repeating itself. Only this time my grandmother wasn't a young woman carrying secret reports. She was a 78-year-old grandmother who simply wanted to enjoy retirement. The strangest part was how ordinary she remained through all of it. While lawyers argued, while investigators worked, while reporters chased stories, she baked cookies, she watered plants, she helped Ethan with homework, and every evening she sat on the porch watching sunsets as though none of the chaos existed. One afternoon I finally asked her a question that had been bothering me for months. Were you scared? She smiled. Every day. Then why did you do it? She looked toward the garden. For several seconds she didn't answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft. Because sometimes doing the right thing isn't about courage. What is it about? She smiled again. Responsibility. The answer stayed with me. A year later the investigation officially ended. Convictions were secured. The threat disappeared. Life slowly returned to normal. At least as normal as life can be after learning your grandmother lived an entire secret chapter nobody ever knew existed. Today she still lives in the same house. Still grows tomatoes. Still sends birthday cards. Still complains when we don't call enough. Most people who meet her see an ordinary grandmother. And in many ways she is. But now whenever I look at her, I see something else too. A young woman who faced impossible choices. A woman who spent decades carrying a burden she never asked for. A woman who protected everyone she loved without ever expecting recognition. And sometimes I think about that rainy Sunday dinner. The crowded table, the laughter, the noise, the envelope, and the moment I realized that the quietest person in the room was carrying the biggest story of all.